Better late than never, better late than never, forever hard to measure. I might see my future fall away, but you control time, so my future do what you say. Good morning, afternoon, good day, no matter where you guys are. Hope that you all are having a blessed one. I'm super excited about this conversation. So by now, you guys, if you've been tuning into Better Late Than Never, have some dope speakers. But this one, this speaker is near and dear to my heart. I'm here with the talented, the extremely thoughtful, the multi specialized skill set, Miss Robyn Wilson Brown. Coach Brown, how you doing, ma'am?
I'm good. I'm good. Look, I feel even better after that intro. Thank you, Q. I think of you in the highest regard. You are the coach to other coaches. So much respect to you. So I'm excited about our conversation today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I appreciate it. I'm super excited as well. I'll always love like just making sure I paint a picture, because I don't know who's tuning in. I don't know where people are in life. But better late than never, Robyn. The heart behind it is just how it sounds. It's never too late for us to be the best version of ourselves. And I think that we both can relate to this as career coaches, as perhaps like career development professionals, creatives, entrepreneurs. Whenever we try to like think about, how do we accelerate in our world of work? How do we do work that's meaningful and purposeful? Sometimes we just get stuck, or we cross paths with folks that get stuck. And that's the thing that I really feel passionate about is talking about that stuckness for lack of better words. But before we get there, who is Robyn Wilson Brown? What tell us about yourself, what you do for a living, your background. Tell us about Coach Brown.
Okay, so where do I start? Let's see. What I do for a living is try to stay as closely aligned to God and his plan for me as possible.
Man.
Because anytime I deviate from that, I don't know where I'm going to end up, right? But in terms of my history of work, most recently, I was a career coach. I am still a career coach. I am reorganizing, rethinking, and restructuring the way that I do that work. But I'm passionate about helping people who find themselves needing to pivot, needing to start over, or needing to start something new. I help them to get clear, to gain their confidence, and to have the proper collateral to move in the direction that they want to move in. And so, by occupation, a career coach, I have been in the tech space as far as education. I have been in the vocational space. I've been a school director before for cosmetology and aesthetics programs. I've also been behind the chair. I've done a little bit of everything. I have had many lives and many jobs. And so I think that uniquely equips me to meet people right where they are in terms of what they want their career to look like, and not just what they want their career to look like, but what they want their career to look like in terms of how it fits into the life that they envision for themselves. So, really holistic approach to career coaching is what I would say.
I love that. I think you're the consummate example of being a career coach. But you're way more than that. I know enough about you in terms of being an entrepreneur, creative, and then on the professional side of things, having like you kind of mentioned being a school director in the world of cosmetology, which is a billion-dollar industry. When we think about our Black and brown community. One of the reasons one of the phrases you gave me when you reached out was Q, I want to talk about this idea of like being laid off and leaning in. All right. So me and you have had many convos about just ideation and imagining what are the possibilities for others. But like you in a season where like being laid off is a real thing, and how do you navigate that? So framing this as a question, tell me a little bit about like what that's been like for you. Perhaps the journey, what you're learning, what you're hoping to like help others with. So land that for us.
Okay, most recently, my job was working for a nonprofit organization as a career coach, right? Student success, helping learners that finished a certificate program land their first job in that particular industry, helping other people who have been into their careers pivot into a new industry. And was recently, as early as the end of May, laid off from that position. So now you have a career coach who has helped people land jobs, I found myself in a position to, now I'm going to have to practice what I preach, right? I'm going to have to take all those skills and strategy and put it into landing my next gig. One thing about me is I spend a lot of time reflecting. I have a lot of thought time, and that has been super beneficial for me. And now I have had jobs in before, but I can tell you coming away from this layoff, and I don't know if it's the season of my life that I'm in, my age, it's the season of my career that I'm in, but I have to tell you that one thing I was so happy about at the end of this position was I did not feel in any way that being laid off diminished my value in the workforce. I walked away from that knowing like I have something to add. I have a lot of value that I bring to every room I step in, whether it's work or not. Like I am really clear and confident about my experience, my knowledge, and what I bring to the table. And so I didn't have that kind of identity crisis. I've had that time before where a job ended and you have to spend time dissecting and separating what you do from who you are. The blessing for me is that in this season, I'm really clear about who I am.
Mm.
I'm really clear about who I am. And so if I'm not doing that thing anymore in that way, I still who I am. Now I just have to figure out how to do that thing I want to do and how I want to do it, not the whole idea of who am I if I'm not doing this, right? So that is a real blessing. So I would say one of the first things to do if you find yourself laid off, and part of that leaning in is remembering who you are and trusting that you still have value, even if you don't have a so called job, right? And sometimes that's hard work. And that's the thing that we need to do in the beginning. And I don't say that lightly because sometimes you do not have the luxury of like, let me take some time to explore and sit with my thoughts and feelings because you have very real obligations and responsibilities as adults. So I don't say that lightly. So if even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning where you do your good old being Mary Jane and stick your post-its on the mirror to remind yourself of who you are, or if you don't feel like that's who you are right now, who you want to be, right? Um, do that work. One of the things that I really, and we talked about this a lot because you have coached me before, and one of the things you said to me was, get your own personal mission statement together. Like, even if you're not doing this thing here, what do you want to do and who do you want to do it for? And that was such a blessing. I really appreciate that from you, Q, because now in this season, I'm very clear because we've had those conversations. And I really do have a heart for people who are underrepresented, people who are underserved, and most especially for Black women, because I happen to be one. And so I know that as Black women, and thinking about last month, 106,000 Black women lost their jobs.
Yeah.
That was an astonishing stat to me. But in thinking about that and thinking about being laid off and needing to lean in, there are some very specific experiences that we have in the workplace and challenges we have in the workplace. And so the number one thing I can tell people who have been laid off, especially Black women, is healing over hustle. Healing
Mm.
over hustle, because you don't want to take that same hurt and trauma and all of those things into your next career move, gig, job, whatever that is. So if you can take a little bit of time to just kind of slow down, catch your breath, and say, hey, what do I need to heal? What can I do better? What was that situation trying to tell me? What did I do right? You know, it's not always on you. Sometimes it was them, right? You still have value, all those things, but healing over hustle. What do I need to heal to move forward whole? And so just taking a minute to catch your breath which we can sometimes feel desperate, like I gotta pay these kids are depending on me. All of that kind of stuff can get in the way. But if you have the luxury, if you can take the time, if you don't have it, make the time to just breathe and heal before you hustle. That's what I would
Mm.
say. One of the big things I would say.
Just one, just something
Just
slight.
one.
Man. What's going on, family? My name is Quintrell Lenore from Lenore Coaching LLC, where we are focused on equipping today's workforce and tomorrow's workforce. So here's the challenge at hand. Our education systems have historically focused on getting young people to go to college. We know that college is not the best route for everyone. On top of that, it's extremely expensive. Also, our educators are busy. They don't have the time and bandwidth or skill to provide individualized career development for our young people. Our businesses are struggling to recruit in-demand talent. This means that there's not enough qualified technical skilled professionals to do the work that's needed in our workforce. And lastly, our leaders within our workforce are struggling to cultivate a culture where young people have the soft skills to contribute to the organization's culture. So here's what we've done. We have built our Momentum program, which is a comprehensive program that helps young people to align purpose in their world of work. The Momentum program focuses on professionalism, soft skills development, career exploration, career clarity, as well as goal setting and exposure to in-demand industries. We partner with schools, education institutions, small and medium-sized businesses, organizations, nonprofits, and so much more. We've created Momentum to be a flexible program that can be implemented in person or virtual, synchronous or asynchronous, or if your organization has the personnel, we can train your organization to implement our Momentum program. Reach out to us today. No matter how small or large your audience is, we want to partner with you. Have a blessed one. So I knew that I was gonna get some gems, right? I knew that at the end of this convo, I'm gonna have to send you an invoice because you dropping masterclass knowledge. But that healing over hustle is big. Like I really think that that's something that we can all relate to. And I'm thinking about so like my transition from working at in higher ed to transitioning out was it kind of felt emotionally overwhelming. Like I knew that for me, the biggest priority is like I gotta find something that's gonna stabilize my family financially. So I think you touched on that just now of like there is a sense of like privilege when we think about like being laid off of a job and having to process and figure out like what is it that we want versus like no, I got a whole family to provide for. So that healing over hustle is a real authentic phrase, but I think everybody has a different relationship when it comes to I don't know, financial stability. Um,
Right,
I want
right.
to give this data, but I also want you to help contextualize this from like people that we interact with, right? So as you were processing, I just wanted to like give some real labor market context. Like right now, when we look at like the retail, like retail is very broad. Like over the last year, and really it's this quarter, I should say, 22,000 layoffs from tech companies, right?
Right.
And just like this week alone, like it's July 24th, so 4,500 layoffs were had from retail tech organizations. On top of that, tech employees, about 80,000 tech folks were laid off overall in 2025, and then specifically for like government folks. So this could be federal, it could be statewide. About 67,000, right? That's a lot of humans. Like
Yeah.
that's somebody's husband, somebody's wife, somebody that provides for their family. So just kind of giving that context and giving your lived experience, like from people that are in between roles, been laid off, like what do you think are some of the challenges that they might be struggling with? Like what is like the person's day-to-day, challenge that they might be having to navigate as they're in between work?
I think that it is definitely going to require some clarity to get to the next step. And clarity is really, really difficult when you are stressed, right? And when you feel a lot of pressure. Again, sometimes taking time to reflect and figure out what you want to do next feels like a luxury when pressure is building and responsibility and obligation is there. So I definitely think clarity is a really big challenge. What's next? Uh, Having obligations is a really big challenge. Bills, we have bills to pay. It is very real that they come every month like clockwork. And if you weren't managing well to begin with,
Yeah.
if that income, stops, what there's some statistic that most Americans do not have even $1,000 in savings, right? And so if your paycheck stops, it's you're gonna have to figure out what to do so that you can continue to pay your bills. It might require you to make some very, very difficult decisions. You might not be able to live where you live, or drive what you drive, or eat what you
Yeah.
eat, and that's like really very, very real, especially for people. The hardest working people in our country tend to be the people who earn the least, right? And so people who are already working two or three jobs. So I think that is very difficult. Feeling desperate, feeling the pressure, wanting more. Another challenge is not having the skills or the experience to move into the areas that you want to. Um, Maybe you don't feel qualified for the job, and maybe you're not. But how do I get there? Sometimes we don't even know where to start, right? And sometimes when we think about starting, if we don't have the resources to take those steps, then it just feels like another dead end. Sometimes it just feels like closed doors everywhere. And so I think managing your mood, managing your stress, having time to get clear about what's next and what it would take to do what's next. What's the next practical step? Because when I think about the finish line is overwhelming. I don't know how I'm going to get there. So it's kind of slowing down a little bit, figuring out the next practical step and trying to take that step. I think it's really super duper important to tap into your support system. And if you find yourself in a space where you don't really have one, then I think one of the things you should do, even if you're not laid off right now, especially if you're not laid off right now, the best time is when you're not in that desperate situation. But be intentional about building your own village.
Yeah.
Start building that village. Start putting together that support system. So I think those things are challenging and super duper important amongst lots and lots of other challenges. The great news is that if you have immediate needs, there are temporary interventions, right? Like if I need some cash today, I'm gonna start asking myself, what can I do to make some cash today? What, and that might be DoorDash, that might be some of those types, Uber, that might be some of those types of things to just get some resources for today. Because sometimes that's what it is. I can't think about tomorrow. I can't think about next month. What am I going to do today? And so there are some of those interventions. There are some, social services interventions. There's some, you might need to call on some family, so those kinds of things. But definitely you need a plan. You need a
Hmm.
plan. You
Yeah.
absolutely need a plan. So yeah.
Solid. And I think one of the things you emphasize is that like our culture is not homogenous, right? And all of us have different like levels of urgency is probably the best way I can put it. And so I think you made a good call out of like if I'm in a situation where I need to financially do something, I think we kind of have to put our pride aside. We got to do some DoorDash. We have to ask for help from community-based orgs, social services, things of that nature. But then for those of us that are probably not in that sense of urgency, a layoff and a lot of times could probably be the best blessing for you because it's a forced pause. It's kind of what I'm hearing as well, where you probably haven't intentionally done some clarity finding and coaching to really see like what is it that you want, but perhaps even more. I don't know if many of us have asked ourselves, what does God want from me when it comes to my skills and things of that nature? I would love to go there with you. Me and you are nerds when it comes to career development. Like we literally can talk about theory. We could talk about like how it impacts people from a sociological standpoint, but from a practical lens of like you're navigating being laid off, but you also are an entrepreneur and you're also navigating like your professional career. Can you speak a little bit to like practical, maybe like tools or resources that like you have utilized that you might prescribe to other folks? I just kind of want to lend a little bit of like career development of like what are some things that folks can use and from your lived experience as a coach in kind of seasons like this.
It was good, family. Better Late Than Never is more than just an album. It's a concept that it's never too late for us to change our mindsets and our lifestyles. This project was exclusively produced by my homeboy, Matlock, who has produced for some of the best artists in the world, including Lil Wayne. You guys can catch this project and stream it on all platforms, including Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, it's there. As you guys tune in to Better Late Than Never, it's my prayer that this project helps you to live a purpose-driven life. Be blessed.
It's interesting that you say that because a few years ago, this particular tool that I'm going to talk about, you know what I love, right? Was not available years ago, but I've been spending time with this particular tool and using it as a resource. I was doing this before the layoff, but I've absolutely been doing it since the layoff. I will confess, I always have had a side hustle. Um,
Yeah.
and so, and that's just from in the past when I got caught slipping. So my background many, many years ago is I got my cosmetology license and I was behind the chair for years. And so like the last 2 or 3 years, I went back to just kind of doing a little hair on the side, just appointment only because it's something I enjoy. And it was a way for me to be social in a way that I wasn't able to be when you work remote. It can be really isolating. And so that gave me a little social outlet. I am a notary of the public in my state. And so that's a little side hustle. That's a little something you can do. And so I've always had my eyes on a side hustle, right? So I highly recommend side hustles, but also leaning into your gifts and having passion projects and stuff. The tool that I'm talking about that I absolutely love, that I think is going to be very, very necessary
Mhm.
is AI. And I use Chat GPT literally daily. In terms of when I coach people, it is an amazing tool for your job search strategy. If you need to tailor your resume, and you should be tailoring your resume for each job you're applying for. That can be a very time consuming thing. If you're doing it manually, if you're searching that job description for every keyword and all the KSAs, and you still might miss something. If you can use AI Chat GPT as a tool, it's going to make that so much faster for you. So you can apply for more jobs with a tailored resume and cover letter so that you have a better chance of getting that resume in the hands of a real person and getting in front of said person and then getting an interview, right? So it's just an amazing tool and resource for your job search, for your daily life, for maybe you want a list of affirmations that are specific to you. This is something I did lately. I said to ChatGPT, gave it a prompt as an as my life coach. Uh, Create a list of affirmations for the woman that I want to be in 5 years, right? So I can begin to speak those things. And I said, use I am statements because I am is a command. It's a subconscious command to tell you that you already are a thing, even if you think consciously you're just becoming, right? And so it came up with a list of affirmations, and it grows in intelligence the more you use it because it's learning things about you. My husband is not a big fan, right? And so I do run into people that are scared of it and skeptical of it. Um, as you should be, as you
Mhm.
should be. It should be used with caution. It should be used with care. It should be used ethically, and you should understand it. But the truth is, it is not going away. So figure out what you need to embrace it so that it can help. It can help enhance your life and make it easier. It's a resource. It's not the source, right? But I highly recommend, if I had to recommend one thing, it could just make your life easier. Maybe you have gotten bored with Hamburger Helper 3 nights a week and you just need some recipe ideas, right? Whatever that thing is, you can start there. Make it your virtual assistant, make things easier for you. And so that resource is there for you, use it. That is what I would say. So if I had to recommend just one thing, is go to ChatGPT and say, create daily 10-minute lessons so I can learn how to use you more efficient. Let
Yeah.
ChatGPT teach you how to use ChatGPT. So yeah.
And I want to make sure I'm very cautious of this, because from the standpoint that of like, sometimes we make assumptions of people's like skill level and readiness when it comes to like new technologies. What I've
Mhm.
realized, Robyn, is you and I are nerds when it comes to career development. Like, we drink the Kool-Aid, nobody
Mhm.
has to convince us. We're bought in. So using tools like ChatGPT, um, it's a no-brainer, because we create a lot of content, but when we also coach people, like simple stuff such as resumes have extremely fast-paced how we can have a workflow for that. But also, like, we do a lot of programming, trying to scale ways that we serve clients. And so there's been a lot of workshop solutions programming that we use ChatGPT to create quick prompts. Just yesterday, because as like I'm a manager in my role, but most recently I've had to work with learners because I'm working with alumni. So I say that to say, it's been cool for me because I've been resharpening my own skill set of like, I'm so used to coaching my direct reports, but I actually get to coach like clients again. And like, the last time I've done a resume review was in my business, and it was at the early stages of Chat GPT. Like for my exposure, I would say, like, this is 2020. So I wasn't really like using it like that. I was like, all right, this sound good, but I'm gonna still look online, look on Google to figure out the
Right.
template. I say that just to say I banged out like interview preparation, resume, like next to-do lists in a matter of like 10-15 minutes by just having convos with ChatGPT. So I just want to encourage people from three lands, like, one, you as a thought leader and entrepreneur, that I think there's an opportunity for those folks that are really reluctant to have
Mhm.
some really ground level education about using AI. And I think the second audience, I don't know who's listening, but if you look online, Robyn, no matter what industry, like if it's financial services, if it's like healthcare, the people that start their own businesses, like their own side hustles, if you look closely, it's education. Like, they're teaching, they use their subject matter expertise as a financial coach or as a nurse to start another business, how to coach other nurses. That's education. A way to like really build your systems is using ChatGPT, using AI tools to help create your courses and just any content. So I just give that as context, that most of us as entrepreneurs are actually educators that's reframing our skill set. So I think it's a huge opportunity to not make any assumption about people's readiness for like using these tools. Like, most people don't know how to like I was talking to a friend. He was like, "So do I go online? Do I have to download an app?" I was like, "Oh snap! I really got to show bro how to do this." So I just want to kind of normalize that. Helping, I want to go a little bit a slightly different direction.
Okay.
Um, Skills pay the bills, Robyn.
Absolutely.
You are a woman of many skills. Specifically, I've grown more like interested in industry and in technology related skills, like in demand skills. Like, you have a cosmetology background. Like, skilled trades are super important now more than ever, because I've come from a 4-year university where, like, growing up, we were told you need to go to college, you go get a degree. But now people are not, a lot of Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, they're second guessing, like, I ain't about to go to school to get this $100,000 in debt. Can you speak a little bit to like your experience having a trade, having familiarity with cosmetology? Like, can you speak to like the industry opportunities and what it might look like as a small business owner to somebody that might have a retail spot?
Oh, hey, it's you again. The one that is watching this content but ain't subscribed to the channel. Listen, I'm a YouTube embryo, but I have dreams of one day being a full-grown YouTube man. In order to get there, I need your help. Subscribe to the channel. I am trying to help people in their dreams, their callings and careers, and to help scale that growth. All you got to do is help a brother by hitting that subscribe button. Bless your brother so I can bless others. It's that simple. Be blessed.
I think that if I were to advise someone today, and I think that my generation is one of the first generations that has had the luxury and opportunity of asking ourselves, what am I passionate about? What do I want to do for a career? Whereas my mother's generation, my father's generation, they were much more steered toward things that like were just expected of them, right? It's to get a job, to pay the bills, to take care of you and your family's basic needs. And if you get a house, that's wonderful, and a car, that's wonderful. You have made it. You know what I mean? So I was able to think about the things I wanted to do. Um, Cosmetology was a creative outlet for me. It was something I was interested in. And because I had a really young child at that time, I saw it as a career opportunity that would offer me a little autonomy because I saw myself accompanying her on field trips and, being able to work in her classroom and do those kinds of things. So that was what I could think of that allowed me the freedom to do that. And so that was a really great option for me. Also, it was not a career where there was a cap on the income I could make, right? As hard as I was willing to hustle, I could make money from that. Now, the flip side of that is that if you don't work, you don't eat. You know what I mean? So sometimes it was very thin. What I did find and had to be real with myself about is that there's a certain level of security that I need to not be stressed all the time. So that is how I took that career where it was, kind of just, based on my hustle. And I made it a side hustle because I needed insurance and I needed something much more predictable, right? And also, I was always interested. Anything I learned, I want to share with somebody else. I'm just, I think, a born teacher. I'm just, whatever I do, I'm going to share the information. And so that is how I kind of got into being an instructor, being an educator. And going from that, I'm also a little bit ambitious. I don't just want to stay here. How much more can I learn and elevate? So that's how I got into being a lead instructor and a lead educator. And then, being the person who is over the entire campus where everyone reports to me on that campus. But also, at some point, I decided I wanted to move in a different direction. And I had to be willing to take a step back and let go of the title and maybe some of the income and do the thing that gave me the most fulfillment and peace. And I will say this, I have not been bored, right? Making those moves has not been boring to me. But anybody looking to choose a career or change a career, this is something I learned from you. What are your skills, your interests, and your values? What aligns with those skills, interests, and values? What are you naturally good at? What do you enjoy doing, right? What challenges you? What makes you happy? What do you light up when you talk about? A lot of times when we have a need that's so pressing, we don't take the time to think about those things. We just got to get it right now. So I would say think about what you really want. If you could do anything you wanted to do, what would that thing be? You said something a little while ago in this conversation, and you talked about freedom. And I think that a lot of times we associate things subconsciously, but we don't really make the connection. A lot of us really want to have a lot of money, if that's what you want, or want a high earning job, if that's what you want, because that is what we associate with being able to do what we want. But another word for being able to do what you want when you want is freedom. And so if we could skip to the good part and say, what I really want is freedom, and allow God to bring that to us however he brings that to us, maybe we'll be led in a different direction than a job we hate, but that pays us this much every year. or a job that's not in alignment with who we really are or what we really care about. You know, I loved doing the career coaching work because I have been in that spot and I really enjoy talking to people and helping them figure it out and how they light up when they learn something new or remember who they really are, because sometimes we have an identity crisis at the end of a job, again separating what we do from who we are. And
Mm.
so I would say take some time to think about what you really want to do, what's going to make you happy. And no, I always just say this too. When you go in the front door, look for the back door, because at some point, this thing is going to come to an end. And if you don't go in with that mindset, you're going to be thrown off when it comes to an end and you didn't see it coming. I remember I got my first salary job. I was in a position of authority. They gave me an office. I remember sitting in that office going, they gave me an office. I can't believe they gave me an office. I am never leaving here.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. You know what I mean? And what that taught me is nothing lasts forever. So
Mm-hmm.
go in the front door looking for the back door. And you encourage me to do this all the time. Get what you can get from where you are so you can take it to the next place you go, because you gonna be moving. So I think
That's
that's important.
that's rich. That's rich. I mean, you're somebody that is, I think, very intuitive and like is trying to intentionally get the most out of the season that I'm in. And so I think naturally, like whatever work you do, Robyn, like you talked about being an instructor and a director in sort of the world of cosmetology. But I think while all of the practical day-to-day work that you're doing, you kind of like reading the room, you're reading people, you're seeing roadmaps. And so I think a lot of us don't do that intuitively, which speaks to the value of just having coach and guidance. So kind of framing up like, so there was two things that you said. Like I'm always one of the things I like doing for these podcasts is exposure. So one aspect of like for you is you know all of the different types of opportunities you can do in cosmetology. Like for many people, we actually don't know. We see retail spaces. We see people getting their hair and makeup done, but we don't actually know like all those components. So I would love for you to speak to that aspect, just to kind of give us that are out there some language, because like there's side hustles and avenues that people might take that they probably haven't known about. And then the second part of that, like I hope you can kind of transition, is you talked a little bit about what every job opportunity you have, business or job opportunity, is like taking something from it and extrapolating it. So I would love to kind of build on both of those. But if you can kind of enlighten me just kind of briefly, I would love to hear the world of cosmetology and your quick pitch. Like what are some things that people do? Like what are the areas of it?
It was good, family. God has called me to help people to align and maximize their calling with their purpose. And one of the ways that I do that is through writing. My first book is called Purpose Driven Work, which focuses on helping people to get unstuck in their dreams, callings, and their careers. My second book is Purpose Driven Coaching, which really focuses on helping educators, leaders, and workforce development professionals to use coaching to make an impact on individuals' lives. And then lastly, my most recent book is called On Purpose Leadership, which I wrote with my homeboy Vad Lee, which focuses on cultivating leadership for teams and organizations. You guys can purchase any one of my books on Amazon. Y'all be blessed out here, man.
So as far as cosmetology is concerned, you have people who can just focus on hair. And when it comes to hair, it's almost like it is a profession that requires a license, like a doctor requires a license. Now, I'm not saying it's on the level of medicine, right? But both of those careers require a license to let you loose on the public. And so, like any other licensed profession, you can specialize. And so for cosmetologists doing hair, you can specialize in hair color. You can specialize in precision cutting. You can specialize in braids. You can specialize in extensions. You can specialize in curly hair. There are so many specialties, and we're really getting to the place where there is the need for people to understand what you specialize in. I came up old school, so I do a little bit of everything, which is great to be able to do, but you don't necessarily want to do, right? I can do a sew in. I do not enjoy sew-ins. I enjoy what I can charge for a sew-in, but I do not enjoy the process of the
Yeah.
sew-in, right? And so I'm moving away from doing so. And just, of course, I'm happy with the money at the end, but I don't enjoy the process. So I'm not going to spend my time doing, I would much rather spend my time doing two clients of something I enjoy to make the money that I make of one client doing something I don't enjoy, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So you can specialize in a lot of things. Cosmetology also covers aesthetics. You can do facials. It also encompasses nail technician. You can do nails, right? So there are all these different areas that you can specialize in. You can work independently in a salon with other stylists, or you can have a studio salon where it's just you and you provide a particular atmosphere and client for your services one-on-one, which is what I have, a salon studio, because I want to be in charge of the experience I give my client. You're not just coming for a service, you're coming to me for an experience. And we curate the vibes. Like, what do you want this to be, right? You want to watch a movie or you want to have some music? What kind of music do you want to have? Like, I want it to be relaxing. I want it to be your time to step away and focus and take care of you. And so I have a studio. You can have a big salon. You can have a corporate salon. And then there are different pay structures in corporate salons. You may work on commission, or you may have an hourly rate, right? And so lots and lots of things to think about in terms of the cosmetology field. That is really vast, is a high in demand field. It is one that is 9.5 times out of 10 not going to be taken over by technology. Technology comes alongside it, but it's still going to be in demand. Nobody that I know, not me, is going to take their head and stick it in a machine and expect it to, get you looking the way you want to look when you get done. Although we do use technology in the salon. There was maybe a few years ago a manicure machine that they tested out inside of Target. Even though we're not shopping it right now, but inside of Target, and and they tested it out, and it did okay. But there is something to be said for that human connection and that human touch, sitting across from somebody, standing behind somebody, touching somebody.
Yeah.
My husband is a merchant mariner, and he used to work 4 weeks at work and then be home 4 weeks. And I remember he came home one time after being gone for 4 weeks, and he touched my shoulder and it just went, and I
Yeah.
realized, like, nobody had touched me. I mean, I had been around people, but nobody had actually physically touched me. He just touched my shoulder in
Yeah.
a month. And you may not realize it, but we need that human connection. My shoulders were down away from my ears. So if you're thinking about choosing a career too, and you want something that is sustainable and that is in demand, look at those careers that technology cannot replace. It can enhance, but it can't replace. And those things are going to be the kinds of careers that require high emotional intelligence and interaction, human connection and touch. And so that's something else to think about as we have the luxury and opportunity to choose the careers that we want to go into. So that's what I would say about that.
And what you said was just chef's kiss, just because, like, I'm really passionate about exposure. Like, half the battle for us getting unstuck in our career journeys is just like actually people hearing and seeing, like, oh snap, I didn't even think about that. Like, I don't know who's listening, but you just gave a really good context of, like, by the way, I got a salon at the crib and we curate all the vibes, right? So somebody needed to hear that. I didn't even think about me using my basement or my, some office in my home to have my salon in. I think a lot of us think so big that it becomes impractical. And then I think a lot of what you mentioned is like, obviously I don't have that skill set, but you mentioning like sew-ins, for example, There's trade-offs to different areas of cosmetology that you kind of navigated for, like, all right, I'm gonna do this area because of the return on investment, or I ain't really doing the sew ins just because I'm not trying to invest that much time, even though the money looks good. So I think somebody just needed it to hear that. So I appreciate you operating not just in your gifts as a career development professional, but to operate as an entrepreneur. Like, I'm biased, but I think all of us should do both. Like, I think that, like, all of us are going to work for somebody. Most of it, everybody can't work for themselves. That's just the reality of it. There's a select few, but most of us are going to go and work for an organization. But simultaneously, there's a skill development that you've accrued throughout the course of your career that you can leverage in a marketplace. And so, you talking about what you're doing in the salon, and I know also you didn't mention this, but you're a consultant to other hair professionals, right? So you
Yeah, yeah.
skill set into multiple businesses. So I'm always a big fan of people that do that. Before I transition, I don't know, did you have any other thoughts or reactions?
I did. When you said both, that's something that really stuck with me. I have, and you have encouraged me to get on social media. I'm trying to do a little bit better, Q. And I do know deep down, I have a lot of value to add. I have a lot of things to say, and I think I say it in a very unique voice. One of the things that has held me back from jumping out there on social media, I'll say it's a few things. It's one is that social media. I didn't grow up with social media. That's not a thing from my generation. We don't put everything online. You know what I mean? So that there was a little hesitation there. The other hesitation has been I felt like I had to choose what I was going to put online. Well, do you want to go out there as a career coach, or do you want to go out there as a hairstylist, or do you want to go out there as a consultant, or do you want to go out there as a learning development because you create courses? Like, what do you want to do? And I felt like I had to choose because niching was in. You need to niche down what you do. And the conclusion I have come to is I don't want to choose. I'm not going to choose. I'm not just one thing. And somebody out there that is not just one thing needs to see somebody being all of the things so that they can feel like they can be all of the things. So I have let go of the burden I felt to choose. I'm not going to. I think the other thing is there is a lot of training and experience that has gone into me being mindful and being a very polished speaker and presenter and understanding that there's a time and place for that. And there is also the Robyn that you're gonna catch when we're just talking, you know? And so how do I find a balance between presenting myself as professional, but understanding that my power is in my authenticity and sincerity and relatability? And how do I balance that? And so I think that I'm finally finding the balance. And
Mm,
so that's not holding me back. So those things have been holding me back. So I just guess I would say the best way to figure out what you want to do is to be doing something, you know,
yeah.
because a lot of times we stop and we're waiting for it to come and knock on the door or come grab us. Like momentum, get that momentum going. Like, don't wait to decide. I saw this on TikTok. It was so good before. And it said, the woman said, choose and then decide. And I was like, girl, what are you talking? What does that mean? I thought choosing and deciding were synonymous. What does that mean? And so she goes on to say, choosing means you pick one. Deciding happens after you choose. You decide if it works for you or not. Do I keep on going down this road or do I change course? So some of us are waiting because we can't decide. She said, choose and then decide. Figure out if it's right or wrong for you, and then choose again. And I was like, I needed to hear that. So
Man.
we have some choices, and sometimes we don't have to choose. Just start doing some stuff to get some momentum going. Yeah.
I mean, Robyn, I don't know if you know how liberating that is. It's for me. Like, I don't know who else is tuning in, but this is me and you having a convo. it's so freeing in that because I think about the folks that I'm attracted to, that like thought leaders that whose content I consume that I probably never will meet, but I still like I'm sharpening my toolkit because of them. And it's the people that are really like polymaths, people that are like they do a lot of things. They're not putting themselves into a box. One of my favorite creatives is a gentleman named Sho Baraka. Like he was kind of a Christian hip hop artist, but this dude is like really like a poet. He's a fashion guy. He's a lecturer like on African American studies. He's a filmmaker, and I think he's probably like 10 or 20 other things. But he has a book. I forget the name of it. It's right here. It's I saw that it was good, right? And his writing, it was like I'm gravitated towards like leadership and self-help type of books because I just like pragmatic advice. But how he wrote the book is he infused poetry. There's a little bit of DEI content because he's using like African like heritage and kind of trauma and how we can use restorative practices to like uplift ourselves. He's also talking about like his journey as an artist, so it's very rich. And his style, how he wrote the book, was like it wasn't a one size fit all. So you said something that really resonates, that like the most authentic thing that we can do is not put ourselves in a box. Uh
Right.
we might have got that feedback to niche up, and that's it's nothing wrong with that. Like somebody might that might be what they need to do. But I think that I'm more of a long distance runner. Like I know that I'm not going to have a following very quick, because for me better late than never is not just me doing career coaching, it's so many other things to help people maximize their purpose. And I wonder if that's what you're really articulating as well, to be your most authentic self.
Absolutely. Even in your job search, there has to be a holistic approach. You're not just bringing part of yourself to your job. I mean, maybe you have to compartmentalize to be productive or safe in that environment, right? But you're a whole person, even if you are sectioning a part off. That's that whole person choosing to reserve something for, for safety or for yourself, but you're a whole person. And so, yeah, bring your whole self to everything, the way, I'm going to show up. Now, the way I show up might vary depending on the environment, but I mean, all of me has got to show up. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to broach this topic, and I want to make sure I do it with respect and delicacy, if that's even a word. So I've had the privilege to really walk by you for like roughly 3 years, and like I've seen your talents on display, but I've also seen your humanity on full display. And I think that a lot of us sometimes we get stuck in life that there's no fault of our own. It's just life happening. And so part of that is like your daughter passing away. I got the opportunity to just see you in the most humbling season of your life, and it broke me just to see that. And so I couldn't have imagined like the pain that you felt. I would love for you to just talk a little bit about like this journey that you're on, um, kind of navigating like your daughter passing away, how it might have impacted you or continue to impact, and what you're kind of like how God is using this as sort of a tool for yourself and perhaps others.
Okay. Let's see, where do I start with that? So, my daughter, Mark, um, passed away February 7th, 2023, in a tragic car accident where, her car flipped and caught on fire. It was horrible. As a parent, it is horrible to think of your child's last moments being that torturous and painful, right? So I only share that to say, as horrible as losing a child is, that made it even more horrendous, right? Talking about how God has shown up in that. I was torturing myself in the days that followed, thinking about how she died. In my mind, I'm at the scene of the fire and the wreckage, and I clearly heard like God in a very audible way say, "Get up and come away from there." There is nothing for you there. In fact, she's not there and she wasn't there, right? And so I have had all these conversations and encounters with God since her passing that have just reinforced so many things for me, which is why I can sit here and have a coherent conversation with you now. I have to thank you publicly. I hope I thanked you for this privately. But one thing that you did that you may not even recognize was a huge thing and a lesson for other people who are wanting to support someone who is grieving. Is whenever you talked about my daughter, you use her name. It seems like such a simple thing, but lots of times, if you've lost someone, people don't want to bring it up because if you're having a good moment, they don't want to make you sad. But I'm here to tell you, you sad anyway. You're
Yeah.
thinking about them anyway, all the time. So you may as well go ahead and bring it up. And if you can use their name, it just says, I remember, and it was important enough for me to remember the name. So that was something huge that you did. Now I will tell you the way that I think of my life. I think of my life before Mark, and that was my whole life up until I became her mother. There's before Mark. And then after I gave birth and had her, those 29 years are after Mark. And the season of my life that I'm in now is after Mark.
Wow.
So that's where I am. There's before Mark, after Mark, and after Mark. I want to tell you, I had no intention of outliving my daughter. It just was not a thing that I thought about or really planned for. But there have been so many little blessings in it. We didn't live in the same state. And the weekend before she died on a Monday night going into Tuesday. That weekend before, she just out of nowhere said, I'm gonna come see you, mom. And she flew in to see me. She had some airline credits and she flew in to see me. And so she sat on the end of my bed and I said, Mark, you know, I know I'm always worrying as your mom and want you to be careful, but I only say that because no parent wants to think that their kid won't be okay if something happens to them. I just need to make sure that no matter what, you're gonna be good when I get out of here. Now I'm talking to her about me leaving. I had no idea that in 48 hours she would be gone, right? And so we had texts and we had conversations and we had the Christmas before she spent Christmas with me. It was just the two of us together. She wanted oxtails and like we had all these little things that we got to do that I can look back on. She came to visit me and she had asked me for this watch for Christmas, this expensive watch. And I was like, girl, I am not getting you an expensive watch. I'm going to get you this. And she used to really piss me off because if you bought her something that you wanted her to have and she didn't like it, she had no problem telling you, which my generation is like, that is very ungrateful. And so I just thought, I'm not going to spend it on a watch. I'm going to get her this. And I distinctly remember God saying to me, okay, well, if you get her what you want her to get her, then don't have an attitude if she doesn't like it. She told you what she wants. And so I got her what she wanted. I got her that watch. And the weekend she came to visit, she flew back home and she forgot her watch. Mm. And so before I could send it back to her, like I wear this watch every day now. It's just a little thing, that I'm like, otherwise the watch would have been in her car. You know what I mean? So there are just as heartbreaking and life-changing as it is, I'm really grateful that I can still reach and find those good things, those memories. I've grown and I've changed in so many ways. One of the ways is I was laid off, and that can be devastating. It really can. But honey, I survived cremating and memorializing my daughter. Like this is light work. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some things we go through in life that just help us to keep it all in perspective. And so that's where I am now. I am navigating life after Mark. So, and those are things that I think about, reflect on, write about. It helps me to be a better friend and more understanding to other people that are grieving. People reached out to me on Facebook just to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Every single message mattered. So now when I see somebody on Facebook has lost somebody, I make sure I send a message because you might think it's a little thing and it doesn't make a difference, but it really does. It really does. So it's helped me to be more empathetic and compassionate and understanding. And now I'm not gonna lie and tell you I am completely evolved because I have moments of rage. Rage. I just want to knock everything over because I'm like, you mean to tell me I have to live the rest of my life without her?
Yeah.
It just does not seem fair. I get pissed off, right? Or I'll have a moment where I'm be like, oh, shoot, let me call Mark right quick. Or right in this moment, I know I will be talking to her on the phone and I'm mad that I can't talk to her. But then there are other things that like I have said, like, talking to her, hey, I just want to know you're okay. If you're okay, turn the light on. And
Yeah.
it's happened so much at this point, the light in the top of my room just comes on so much. It's like, okay, girl, I'm trying to sleep. You know what I mean? But also, I have had those moments of doubt where the light will come on and I say, well, God, am I just telling myself that this is happening just to comfort myself? Am I kidding myself? Am I deluding myself? Am I lying to myself to comfort myself? And I clearly heard God say, then be comforted.
Mm. Wow.
If the thought that your daughter is turning the light on and not somebody else with a remote that's on the same frequency next door makes you feel comforted, then be comforted.
Yeah.
You don't have to question everything. And so I'm making peace with that. I just will not understand everything. And that's just going to have to be okay for now.
Wow.
So, yeah, it has been crazy. It has been quite a journey. And to still, go back to work and to try to get back to some kind of normal has been quite the transition. It's been quite the transition. But
Yeah.
get up every day and do it because when you wake up, it's like, okay, well, I'm still here. Let's see what the day has for me. So
Amen.
yeah, yeah.
Robyn, I appreciate you sharing. I'm just emotional thinking about not just you losing Mark, but also like you as a full human. Um, like you are the consummate example of faithfulness. And this is not to elevate you, because I think that like, you know, any day of the week you would trade Mark being back here in the land of the living. But I think I know um like God is using you and has used you as an example of like pieces being completely shattered, but letting him recraft the vase, if you will, or recraft whatever that design instrument is. And I think you have leaned into like God is your stability, despite losing your daughter, despite like the literally the worst thing that's ever happening. But I think the fruit of that, as you were processing, I think about Revelations, and I don't know what verse it is, but it says that we're saved by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And I know that your testimony is a huge instrument to somebody else, somebody that has like just at their wits end, that even perhaps gone through the same exact thing of losing a loved one. And so I just thank you. And I know for me personally, um, I've been like radically reshifted and retransformed, if you will, because I don't do well when it comes to like loss and grief. But God had He positioned me like I felt like I had to just watch and really just pray. Like there's no words. All of my words were very empty. So I just that really is an example of like God's workmanship, and despite like grief and loss. But I just want to encourage you. I appreciate you and your faithfulness, because I think you're like you trusting God despite losing Mark is instrument to somebody else's faith.
So I will say this, I received that and I appreciate you for that. And that is another testament that if what you saw, if what your perspective was, is my faithfulness and trust in God, then that's God right there. Because I'm going to be honest with you. My grandma used to say, I say, how you doing? Hanging over hell on a spider web.
Yeah.
Like I was hanging over hell on a spider web. So I don't want you to think it's some amazing faith and energy. Like it's mustard seed faith. It's like, you know, if this don't work out, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna be drooling and have my hair all over my head. You know, that is the alternative. So I want you to know, and people listening, and maybe you need to hear this, but understand when people tell you these stories where I heard God say this and this, and that stuff is speculation or is hindsight. We don't always know going into it, right? And so know that when people are sharing those stories with you and their testimonies, there is absolute value in it. And I hope that it blesses you, but you are getting the highlight reel. You do not see the rolling, the snot, the fight in the air and slide down the wall. You don't see, and maybe you know, depending on who you are to that person, you're not meant to see that. But know that that happens too. And so that is necessary to get to the point where you can share the highlight reel. And so if you don't have not come to the point in your story where you're at the highlight reel yet, that's okay too. It doesn't mean you won't get there. So, you know, sometimes we compare ourselves to other people. Oh, they're okay and they're getting through it and they speak so eloquently about it and they have such a powerful testimony. That is beautiful. And I'm glad that it's blessing you. And I hope it does. It needs to. Don't let this be for nothing. You know what I mean? But it is absolutely the highlight reel. And there is some ugly behind the scenes that happens, and it's all valid. It's all valid. So I would say that.
Yeah, I appreciate that honesty. I appreciate that. I want to land the plane. One, to make sure that I'm mindful of your time, but also I don't want to piss off my boss. I gotta hop off in 10 minutes. But I always like landing the plane with this question. You've heard me say this about you multiple times. Like, you are a thought leader. And like, to some people that might fall empty, but I think like one of your superpowers is intellection and ideation. Like, you literally like, or will chew on the possibilities, whether it be somebody's career advancement or building a business, or to like help folks to grieve and with the toughest things. Like, we need folks with your superpower to do so. So I say that to say, as a thought leader, you know, which I see you as, I would be curious to know uh, your next book, because you've written a book before. Um, what is the name of the book that you will write for somebody? Who is it for? Yeah, tell us about the future book.
Q, this is crazy that you asked me this because we have not talked about this. But Q, I have just finished two books.
What?
Q, I'm going to show you the cover artwork for my first one.
Affirmations for Black women. Oh my.
365 affirmations for Black women navigating work, rest, and worth.
Wow.
Right? And this is the other one.
It's a okay. I see the
And
image.
this is 1,000 little goodbyes, what navigating grief has taught me. And
Wow.
so those are a couple of the passion projects that I have been working on and that have finally done. They're being formatted now so that they are ready for printing. You know, it's some of the stuff that I've been putting off. You know, I was talking about like I'm gonna do my book too, Q. And so it's so funny you asked me that because I have been working on that stuff. And so I have tried to be productive in this time that I have been laid off. This is how I have been leaning in. And I've been talking to my sister about this too. Lots of times when God gives us a temporary season the in between, we are so consumed with and worried about the next that we don't take the time to rest. So we go into the new already feeling tired. And I've
Wow.
tried to be intentional
Mm.
about understanding that this is the time to rest so that when the new shows up, I can be ready for it. And I think I shared this quote with you from Cree Summer, who used to play Freddie on what was the show? A Different World. She used to play Freddie on A Different World, but she did an interview with Shan Booty recently on her show Lovers and Friends, her podcast, and she was just talking about life. And I happen to be around the same age as her, and she said that I've been through enough life to know that things are going to turn out all right. So I do not feel the need to practice the ritual of panic.
Mm.
And man, that thing hit me. And I said, yeah, like I've been through enough life to know it's going to turn out all right. So I don't have to practice the ritual of panic. I don't have to panic. I
Man.
can get to it's all right, either frantic and afraid, or I can take a deep breath and I can show up rested and renewed and ready. And so I get to choose. It's not always an easy choice, but in the moments, I get to choose. And so I have really been trying to be intentional about resting when it's time to rest and being so I can be ready when it's time to go. Yeah.
That was a blessing to me. I needed to hear that one because I am guilty of going from thing to thing when I need to actually be spiritually and physically resting. And also not practicing the what was it? Not going through the ritual of panic. That is a really, really good gem.
And
Man,
it doesn't just have to be a season in between jobs, Q. How many of us don't rest at night? We find some other stuff to do, or our mind is so active we don't rest. Like
good.
when it's time to rest, make rest your only job.
Mm,
So yeah.
that's a gem. Robin, you dropped the mic on us. You man, one, I'm super proud of you, but also at the same time, I just want to say thank you at the same time because you don't know how much of a blessing you have been and are to me. So I just pray that God continues to order your steps, madam, because
Likewise, Q, you have had a huge impact on me. I will say that you are the first Black man that has ever been my manager on a job, and you have done it with such grace and integrity and just intuitive leadership and example setting. It has been a true pleasure. You don't understand. I have learned so much from you, and you have created such a space where I feel safe, seen, and supported. I cannot thank you for that enough. And I try to take that into what I do for people, the thing that you have done for me. So I appreciate you so much.
Robin, thank you. I was about to cry earlier. You about to make them tears resurface. I really appreciate you. I really do. All right, look, I'm gonna land this plane. Robin, you stay on. Whoever's tuning in, thank you guys for pulling up. It's better late than never, meaning it's never too late for you to be the best version of yourself. So y'all be blessed. Peace.
Better late than never, better late than never, forever hard to measure. I might see my future fall away, but you control time, so my future do what you say.